Melissa Enos is an entrepreneur, a resident of the City of Goose Creek. She volunteers in the City of Goose Creek, and now she wants to be the next council member for Goose Creek City Council. I speak exclusively with Melissa for this edition of Quintin's Close-Ups. And if you haven't already, subscribe to my YouTube channel and like Quintin's Close-Ups on Facebook. Melissa Enos, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, for having me.
You're very welcome. Obviously, you are a licensed cosmetologist, and you do a plethora of other things. Talk to me more about that.
I do. I wear a lot of hats. I'm a mom of 3 boys. They're 21, 17, and 7. I'm also, I do event coordinating, so I do a lot of wedding planning and wedding coordinating. I'm an officiate, so I'm a notary as well. And my emphasis in weddings is I basically have managed their budgets. So they give me their budget for their wedding, and I help them figure out the best place to utilize that budget. And then I also do independent wine sales. So pretty much I do anything that I have to do to pay the bills. That's pretty much what I do.
Sure. And now you want to bring all of that experience to Goose Creek City Council. Tell me why, Melissa, why Goose Creek City Council?
Okay, so basically for the last 3 decades, I have been heavily involved in community engagement. I currently, about the last 5 years, since 2015, I've been the Cop Stop coordinator. I started out as a volunteer, and that program is through our Goose Creek Police Department. And basically what we do is it's a community police relationship building program where we try to get the police officers and our first responders in our community. The idea behind it is the more I see you, the more you see me, the less I'm afraid of you, the less you're afraid of me. And in the South, how do we get to know somebody? We do that over food. So what our program is 52 weeks out of the year, we try to have a volunteer inside our city limits, open up their home, and we invite the Goose Creek Police Department. Some people also like to invite the fire department, local EMS, and over a meal, we get to know our community. We ask if you're going to host, maybe have a couple of your neighbors, make a side dish, and you guys come in and we want the law enforcement to be seen in the community, and we want the community to know who is protecting and serving them. And I've been doing that for about 5 years. Last year, I was humbled enough to be awarded the Goose Creek Police Department Volunteer of the Year Award, which was humbling. It seems silly to get an award for volunteering when they put their lives on the line every day. But I love our local law enforcement. I love our first responders. I feel like you can build anything that you want to build. You can do anything that you want to do, but if you don't feel safe where you live, that's really, really important. And I'm fortunate enough to have had a business in the city since 2001. So I'm in a unique position that people sit in my chair every day and tell me the things they like and don't like about the city, the things they don't like and they like about the school board, what they want to do, what they see. So it's not my vision, it's really their vision. And though I think being a volunteer is mighty, I think it's greater than any paycheck or other motivation. I really believe that I could get in there and make a difference in this avenue. This would give me a more integral role in my community.
But what is your vision for the city of Goose Creek?
So my number one priority, obviously, is public safety. I think it's really important that we're properly staffed. We have proper training, equipment, infrastructure. That's really important. Fire, police, water and sanitation in schools. That's my number one priority. I have a really big vision. I've been here since 1981. So I've watched Goose Creek go from really a teeny tiny sort of town. We're not small anymore. We're not a little tiny community anymore. So I would love for us to have some urban connectivity. That's really important to me and my family. I have a bunch of boys. 2 of them are teenagers, and they want to be able to walk across the street. I live in Pineview, so I'm in the south end of the city. So I'm right across the street from the 52-176 triangle, and they want to be able to just cross the street and maybe grab a piece of pizza or get an ice cream or go to a store. And we don't have that. We don't have a lot of sustainable, accessible areas, and we're building and developing in the north, up where in the Carnes Crossroads area.
Right.
And we also have a development next to the big Walmart, which is still sort of in the north area, but also like in the northwest. We don't have a development like that in the south. And the city has incorporated some incentive areas and some super incentive zones. And I would like to get in there and take advantage of those opportunities and create some really just urban connectivity where it's some usable green space. It's sustainable, accessible downtown central commerce area that will breed a sense of community.
Oh, yes. And I'm going to get back to that in just a moment. But I went on your website just earlier today, and you said this quote, "I have spent and will continue to spend my entire career genuinely building relationships and listening to the people that live here in Goose Creek." What else are you listening to right now, Melissa?
People talk a lot right now. So one of the big things that people are talking about right now is Century Aluminum.
Oh, yes.
That deal, that's what a lot of people are talking about. A lot of homeowners that have been here for a while and that are fairly new, that have been here like in the last 4 years, everybody's always concerned that their taxes are going to go up. They don't want their homeowners' taxes to go up. A lot of people complain about traffic, which we hear that a lot. We're in a city in January, we had about 41,000 residents. As of last month, we had 43,000 inside the city limits. We're on task by 2024 to have 50,000 residents. About 26 to 28,000 of those are on the road every morning going to and from work, because only 93% of them, or I say only 93% of them, work outside of Goose Creek. So we don't have a lot of job opportunities here, and Century Aluminum was one of those job opportunities. So people do talk about Century Aluminum a lot, and if that does fall all the way through, what options do we have for other jobs? In my community where I live in Pineview, we just had CR Hip move in, right. Which is you don't even have to leave my community to get there.
Right. And you talk about Century Aluminum. Let me take you to that, because obviously you have a lot of time-sensitive budgeting skills. And I would like to know, obviously, how would you help the city negotiate with Santee Cooper in order to keep Century Aluminum in place?
Oh, that's a really good question. So that's actually outside of our field, but our attorneys, I don't currently sit on board, so I'm not privy to the inside negotiations and litigation that's going on right now. I don't know what opportunities there are to negotiate with Santee Cooper. As a citizen, I know right now that Santee Cooper's only opportunity to negotiate right now is to continue the contract that they have. So it's not going to lower any of the price that they pay right now for that 25% of their power. It will keep it the same, but it will stretch out that contract.
Right.
From what I understand, that is not going to suffice for Century Aluminum. They will not be able to sustain staying open with that current price. So I know the city is really trying to move forward in that project. For me, I don't know how many of those people, but I know a lot of them, more than 50% of them, live in Goose Creek. I think when 300 people lose jobs, it hurts. We're going to feel that. So hopefully we're able to move forward and help them keep their jobs. And if we can move forward in the way that we want to, we'll be able to actually put 300 more jobs and hopefully even more out there.
As a matter of fact, the Goose Creek Mayor Greg Habib said this quote, "There are small businesses in and around the city of Goose Creek who supply the Century Aluminum. One particular that comes to mind, it's a very significant part of his business. So while he isn't an employee of there, his business is very reliant upon Century Aluminum." What other Goose Creek businesses are relying upon Century Aluminum?
I think there's a lot of surrounding businesses that rely on Century Aluminum employees currently. We have some small businesses. We have convenience stores, restaurants, where the employees patronize those businesses. They'll obviously be hurt by 300 people not coming in to patronize them if they do close. So we do have a lot of surrounding businesses that rely on those people in that area.
And according to Channel 4, Century Aluminum officials said they sent a notice to employees that the plant could close actually on December 31st, 2020, unless they can, quote, secure a competitively priced power arrangement. What arrangement is ideal price-wise for Goose Creek and Century Aluminum right now?
So I think what they're talking about is the open market price. So 75% of their power they purchase from the open market. This is just my understanding, of course. And 25% is purchased from Santee Cooper, and that 25% is about equal to that 75%, which is not sustainable for them. So I think ultimately what they would need to do is to be able to purchase that 25% also from the open market, which would decrease their influx of bills, at least by a quarter. between a quarter to 75%, which would allow them to have more revenue to work their business.
And the mayor explained that the city has already communicated with the Unemployment Commission. He said the city will continue to evaluate the options for the Mount Holly plant. He said the loss could affect the Goose Creek economy. What options are ideal right now, Melissa?
Right now, Quintin, if they close, which it's possible that they close, based on how the citizens are hearing what's going on right now, it's possible that they close. 3 of those parcels are already annexed into the city. As from what I'm understanding and what people are talking, those would not be used for any sort of like residential growth. That's not what people are talking about. They're talking about putting other industry or manufacturing type businesses there. If Century Aluminum were able to stay open, Century Aluminum would be able to bring in maybe some of their suppliers or partners or other businesses that work with them on their property. That would decrease some of their overhead because it would be right there on their property. So there are options, whether they close or stay open. For us in the city, it's easier for us to help businesses stay open than for us to open new businesses that are closed.
And let me just ask you another obvious question. What has Century contributed to the city's economy?
Well, the people that work there, a lot of them live here too. So they're spending their money. They're working and living inside of Goose Creek. So as a taxpayer, we want taxpayers to eat here, shop here, live here, thrive here. And those people, a lot of those people live in Goose Creek. So they are eating lunch here, they are shopping here, they are working here. So of course, we want to keep taxpayers' money inside of our municipality. We do not want people inside of Goose Creek to have to travel outside of Goose Creek to spend their money.
And let me go to the other side. Santee Cooper said this to Channel 4, quote, "We estimate it would take about $270 million and 6 to 8 years to replace the capacity you now want and increase our operating costs $80 million to as much as $160 million over that time frame. All costs that would have been shifted and borne by other customers for the sole purpose of benefiting Century. What should be the capacity?"
So I don't have a good answer for you there. I really don't know what the capacity should be. And I'm not sure how the trickling down of Century Aluminum being a customer of ours, how that trickles down. I know originally how people talk about it is that Century Aluminum would be the City of Goose Creek's only customer. However, if Century Aluminum is able to stay open and they're able to get, like I said, other businesses that work with them, it would obviously be in a different capacity. So I think that's an open-ended question. We're not really sure.
And I know Channel 4 said that they would like to offer a 1-year extension on their current arrangement, which Santee Cooper said has been apparently declined twice. What should be in the next arrangement?
It looks like probably what's going to happen, Quintin, is that Goose Creek, again, from a citizen point of view, I don't sit on city council yet, so I'm not privy to those meetings. But it does look like that Goose Creek is probably in open litigation still, and this may make its way on up to Supreme Court. And I don't think that Century Aluminum wants to be tied up in a contract with Santee Cooper if, say, we end up at the Supreme Court in April and they have a contract until December, and then a judge finds that we are actually able to supply them with power.
And let me get back to your re-election bid.
Sure.
Oh, sorry. It was a little delayed there. I'm so sorry. And then my neighbors are being so noisy out here, so it's hard to concentrate. But let me, you said this too on your website. You said this, quote, "My personal, professional, and educational background has given me the opportunity to recognize and appreciate how important economic development is to a thriving community." What is the state of economic development right now in the city of Goose Creek?
Right now, we're booming. We're in good shape. Compared to other municipalities, we withheld, weathered the storm really well from COVID, to my knowledge, because our small business community is pretty strong. Our network is pretty strong. I don't personally know of any businesses that actually closed. This city, along with the county, has worked on some zoning projects for some incentive areas down Red Bank Road and some super incentive areas right here in the triangle behind me. at 52 and 176. We have some programs, Kickstart the Creek, to help some small businesses recover from COVID. So we have a lot going on to maintain and sustain local businesses, and then also to attract some businesses as well.
And those super area zones that you were just talking about, where do you want them on the south end of Goose Creek where you are?
So the super incentive areas are really down Red Bank Road on the other side of the light. Okay. And then the incentive areas are on this side of the railroad tracks. So part of the big challenge in Goose Creek is that if you take a bedroom community and you start building it on two main state roads, we have a big railroad track that runs in the middle of our city. So when you're trying to get a level of urban connectivity, it makes it a little more difficult. But that just means we have to think outside the box. We have an amazing economic growth and development director, Matt Brady. He's been here for a couple of years. He is innovative. He's creative. We have Natalie Ziegler, our new city administrator. Just where she came from in Hartsville and what she was able to be a part of in Hartsville. I really think that Goose Creek can move down here in the South too. We have some connectivity and we have a centralized commerce area that really brings our community together.
And, let me ask you this too, because you said this as well on your website. You said this quote, "I feel a genuine social responsibility to our community, and I can think of no better purpose than to serve you." Let me ask you this, Melissa. What other responsibilities do you hope to have if you're elected to city council?
So social responsibility to me, Quintin, means it's sort of like your ethical framework, right? It's how much do you contribute to the society that you live in? And I feel like since I was 14, I have been a servant of my community, and that it's important for us to give back. I've been able to raise my family here safe, have a business here, my kids go to school here. And I really think that if we did not I feel like a lot of times we're a community of apathy. So it's really easy for us to complain and be reactive, but we're not proactive. And I don't think it's necessary to reinvent the wheel. I really think that we can go to some other communities in our state, like Greer, South Carolina, Easley, South Carolina, Florence, Greenville, Bluffton, and we can look at them and look at what they did and how they did it and how they paid for it. That's always a big question. How are you going to pay for it? And we can do what they did, and we can do it well. We have to be creative because we have a little different mechanism. We don't have a lot of green space. So we have to revitalize what we already have rather than just develop on new space. But it was doable years ago, and we can do it now.
And how do you hope to revitalize the downtown Goose Creek area?
Oh gosh, my vision is big, but my vision is to, I would love for us to have a downtown central commerce area. I would have loved for us to been a part of the LCRT when they decided where that was going to go from Somerville to downtown. I do think that we could get on their second phase. I think that's multifaceted, and it would create a lot of solutions for Goose Creek. It would diminish some of our traffic issues. It would bring some business and some, economically friendly environment to Goose Creek. I think that would have been big for us. I think that we do have some areas that we can revitalize to decrease traffic and make a centralized shopping center where community people want to come out. And we do still have some green space, and we need to utilize that green space. We don't have a lot of it, but we have a little bit of it. So we definitely need to utilize that space.
And let's talk about the second phase of the LRT. I mean, what type of solutions do you have now? Well,
the LCRT is fairly expensive. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm pretty sure the last time I looked at it, it was about $1 million a mile to develop, which seems really expensive. It is expensive, but compared to other areas, to have a mass transit unit when we do have so many people on the road and so many people that are, in their cars going to and from work, this would fix so many issues. It also, where the LCRT runs, creates little hubs of centralized commerce. So maybe you get on a stop here in Goose Creek and you're going downtown to work, and you live in maybe you live in Monk's Corner and you stop back in Goose Creek to grab dinner or to go shopping before you go home. It would create some more economic diversity here as far as where we get our income. And as long as we start getting some of our revenue from our commerce, then we can sort of guarantee that or at least help that our homeowners' taxes don't go up, which is really important to us.
And what's the revenue looking right now amid COVID?
Right now, it's really good for us. Right now, the city has a really good reserve. Our budget was just released. And right now we're really filling in some holes that we had. Natalie and Tyler and Matt are doing a phenomenal job about this is the money we have. What's the best utilization of that money? We do have a reserve right now, which is amazing. And of course, we were able to kickstart the creek, which was great for small businesses.
And you talk about small businesses, you talk about economic diversity. How diverse is Goose Creek when it comes to minority-owned businesses?
Right. So we do have some minority owned businesses, and our business network is really strong here. If you're a small business owner, odds are you know a lot of other small business owners. What would be amazing for us is if, let's say we took Kickstart the Creek, and after some businesses were able to pay back those loans, if we were able to use that reserve to maybe have some female owned or minority owned business incentives. Because at the end of the day, you want your local government, your fire, police, water sanitation, your business owners, you want them to mirror the constituents that live in your community. And so I think having a healthy minority female owned business, I think that's really important.
And you talk about fire and police. You also said this on your website, quote, "I will make every effort to ensure that the police and fire departments with growing demand have the appropriate funding and resources to add the necessary positions, infrastructure, training, and equipment," just like you said earlier, to uphold quality of service and performance the community has come to expect. Where exactly is the growing demand in the city of Goose Creek?
So right now, where we live, there really isn't space to develop, but in the north end, we do have space to develop. But as we grow, we should have 2 police officers for every 1,000 citizens we have. So at 43,000, we should have 86 paid positions. Right now we have 75. So we do not have enough paid positions for the citizens that we have. Our fire department, we are short 1 fire station. We are getting that fire station, but we already annexed in the space and station 4 isn't there yet. We're moving as fast as we can to get it there and to get that fire truck there. But again, these are reactive things. And in my opinion, though I know it seems like a big dream, we could be more proactive rather than reactive. And I would like to be a part of that. I'm very in tune with the needs of the fire, police, local law enforcement, because I do work closely with them. And it's achievable. It's attainable. We can get there.
Dan, what's the quality of service right now when you think of first responders in Goose Creek?
Right now, it's really good and they're working their tails off, but we are short police officers. We are short firemen. So right now, they're working extra hours and we should be able to have more relief. We should not have to be working the hours. Their regular 40-hour week should not have to be a 48-hour week in order to cover shifts. They should be able to, we should have more law enforcement and first responders to cover the amount of citizens that we have.
And let me reread what you just posted on your website. You said this, quote, "I will make every effort to ensure that the police and fire departments with growing demand have appropriate funding and resources." Let me stop there. What should be the appropriate funding for public safety right now?
We have to keep up with the amount of people we have. We have to keep up with the growth. So in our budget, we do have a budget for fire, police, but we do have to keep up with the number of people we have. So for instance, the police department this year asked for 10 more paid positions, and they did get 2. And compromise, of course, in communication and partnership is important. But I do think that we could do better. I think that we can make sure that the funding is there for our staff, that our funding is there for our training. Chief Roscoe, her forte is in training. We should utilize that. Her background in training and community engagement is amazing. It's state of the art, and we should be able to utilize all of these brilliant minds that we have brought here to Goose Creek.
And Obviously, you talked earlier about your relationship with most of these first responders, and you said this on your website, quote, "I will continue my efforts towards a community building campaign that promotes police community partnerships and neighborhood camaraderie to make our city safe." What's that partnership right now, and where else should the partnership be in Goose Creek?
So right now, that partnership that I engage in is our cop stop. I try to make sure that we have, officers in our community, but we also do huge events like National Night Out, which was just in October, that's normally in August. I'm not sad that got pushed back to October. It's really hot in August. We also do our 5K, our Hot Pursuit, which funds our Shop with a Badge, which we did last year, which was an amazing community event. It brings children in that maybe necessarily wouldn't have anything under their Christmas tree. They go shopping with a police officer. We wrap presents, and they get to see Santa, and they put presents under their tree. It's huge for our community, and it's big for our police officers too. So those sort of community engagement projects. When we do the cop stop, also a lot of times if the person's home allows the space, we include fire and EMS as well. It's important that we have community building programs for the community and any first responders that protect and serve those constituents.
And let me read one last time what you said on your website about the first responders. You said, "I will make every effort to ensure that the police and fire departments with growing demand have appropriate funding and resources to add the necessary positions for infrastructure, training, equipment to uphold the quality of service and performance of the community, which it has come to expect." How do you deal with growth, with smart growth, Melissa?
You have to have planned growth, Quintin. You have to utilize every aspect of that planned growth. So, for instance, our police station was built 21 years ago, and 21 years ago, it housed a lot less police officers, so we don't actually fit in it. Our constituents right now need a fourth police station. Again, a fire station, I'm sorry, which Station 4 is coming, but we don't have it yet. You can do planned growth. If you want to look at it as an example, you could look at Carnes Crossroads.
Oh yeah.
When Matt Sloan came in, he utilized impact fees, which we haven't utilized. By we, I mean Goose Creek. We have not utilized impact fees since, I believe, 1986. Impact fees are a great way to pay for infrastructure. They're a great way for us to plan infrastructure before we develop the land.
You talk about impact fees. How much would that be for right now for the city of Goose Creek?
So it depends on the development. Impact fees are usually charged by the developer, and it would just depend on the area. Again, we don't have a lot of new development space in Goose Creek. We don't have a lot of green space or undeveloped land yet, so we have a lot of revitalized space. But impact fees, along with, there's so many other fees, Quintin. There are the city, up until recently, when I was just talking to Natalie just a couple months ago, we didn't have a grant writer. And within a matter of like 3 days, we found almost $1 million worth of infrastructure grants that we're not utilizing. One of them was $500,000. That was a checkmark grant. And when you think about grants, it's not just applying for those grants, but it's also having somebody on the back end of those grants that's willing to manage them. But there are things that we could utilize. We could do development corporations that would help us fund projects. We could do project financing. We have bonds. We have so many ways that we could develop infrastructure, and we could almost develop infrastructure first, like some of these other municipalities in our state, where they go ahead and put the roads in, they put the traffic lights in, which makes it more attractive to businesses and residential to come in and build. And then we can charge a little bit more for that. And then there isn't a lot of this sort of convoluted, who does this road belong to? Does the road belong to the state or the county or the city? Or I'm not really sure who it belongs to. But the truth is that if we took some more accountability and social responsibility for what we're building, instead of just doing these development deals, we could put the infrastructure in first. And when this growth and development is upon us, we can be the driver of the bus instead of the passenger on the bus.
And you talk about those development deals, and you talk about the developers. What type of incentives would you want the developers to bring into the city of Goose Creek?
I would love for developers to if they're doing residential development, for them to either donate the land or subscribe the land to school, fire department, infrastructure, obviously. And when I say infrastructure, I always use that term. And when I first say infrastructure, I always mean fire, police, water, sanitation, and schools. But I would like for them to be accountable for the area that they're going to impact, right? There should be a level of accountability there. And in revitalized development, so for instance, the area that's closer up to Walmart, it's sort of like in the northwest area, for those developers to go ahead and put sidewalks in, to put traffic lights in, to have more than one way in and one way out. We have a lot of that here. They're like, oh, we did the bare minimum. We put one way in and one way out. There should be some accountability and some more compromise and negotiation before we finalize those deals.
And you all said this on your website too, quote, in order to build and improve our infrastructure, make our city more attractive to a variety of businesses, and continue the gentrification efforts, I plan to implement and update policies regarding fiscal responsibility and use of available financial programs. Let me ask you this. What policies would you update to make Goose Creek more fiscally responsible?
We don't utilize a lot of the funds that we have access to. We have access to an array of, I know sometimes people say creative financing, and sometimes that's a dirty word, but we have access to other things other than small interest loans. We have access to, like I said earlier, several types of bonds, project financing, development corporations, grants. We have access to so many other forms of finances that we're not utilizing, and we don't have them implemented into our policies. So though I think Goose Creek we're rapidly developing and we're moving in a fantastic direction, we're sort of in a sweet spot. And so some of the smaller things that just need to be cleaned up, those little things are the things that I would like to be a part of, cleaning up those little things and those baby steps that help us make these gigantic leaps.
And where are the gentrification efforts happening in Goose Creek?
Right now, we have our big project on Button Hall, which is our restaurant brewery that's in the old fire station from the 70s. So we do have that project. We have CR Hip, which is in Pineview, where I live. So we do have some, that are going on right now, where we're trying to sort of revitalize some shops in some areas. We just had Pat's Automotive that's right here across the street from my house. I look at it every time I drive out, and he's been there so long, and he's wonderful, and everybody knows him. Right. And he just took advantage of a grant here for signs and redid the front of his shop and his signs. So revitalization is definitely also John McCants Park that's over in Boulder Bluff. So sort of the southwest and the southeast are mostly our revitalizing projects.
And you talked earlier about all of these undiscovered, money really in the city of Goose Creek. What communication barriers in the city that need to be broken down right now? So
it seems like, again, I'm new to the political arena, so I had to do a lot of homework over the last 2 months. And what a lot of my homework and me meeting with all of these intricate moving people that make the city move is that there seems to be a lack of communication between different departments. I think that if we had more just really sort of strong communication and partnership, we would have a lot of multi-municipality governing bodies working together, where Goose Creek is working with Berkeley County. We just did that. Philip Obie just worked with Mayor Habib for a turning lane up on 52. It seems like a small project, but that's huge. And that's huge for the people that live over there that have been impacted for a long time that just needed some help. So partnership and communication is huge. We have to communicate with one another. We have to negotiate. We have to compromise, and we have got to work together. And it's definitely, we have a team in place right now and people working together to do that right now.
Melissa Enos, thank you so much for your time. And again, welcome to Quintin's Close-Ups.
Thank you, Quintin, for having me.
You're very welcome.